Hey, I'm Alex Ratcliffe from Board Game Co., and today I'm reviewing Tangram City from Uwe Rosenberg and Capstone Games. Tangram City is, appropriately enough, a game about tangrams. This nicely falls into the polyomino genre of games, while still being a slightly different because it's not technically polyomino so much as it is tangrams. This is from Uwe Rosenberg, who has dabbled very heavily in polyomino games, a fascinating designer who has done anything from the most heaviest of farming simulator games, all the way down to light accessible things like Patchwork, and the things that combine those two, like in A Feast for Odin. I always want to say in the name of Odin, but it's not in the name of Odin, it's A Feast for Odin. Anyways, Tangram City is an entirely different beast. This 1 to 5 player game is going to have players filling out their own personal Tangram board over here, and you're going to be doing so by drawing 4 cards per round. Now, the way this works out is it is variable based on player count. For the sake of simplicity, I'll just illustrate a 3-player game over here, but the card distributions that drop different how you do it, but you're always going to be revealing 4 cards per round, which means in a 3-player game, you're going to have card 1, card 2, card 3, and then the first card, which is going to be revealed first face up, and you have this tile over here. So we need to find this tile in our little pile full of Tangrams over here. Looks like this shape, and you could use either side of that tile to put this down on your board. Now, I'll tell you why in a second, but first thing you need to know, you have complete flexibility. They don't need a touch. You can go wherever you want. You can't overlay tangrams, so I can't put this over another tangram. I can't put it off the board. So when I say complete flexibility, I really just mean one specific thing. You don't have to be touching previous tangrams. That's the only thing I mean when I say complete flexibility, because you might not be used to that. Very often things have to touch, not in this game. Now you're going to do that. Now the key thing to note is I do know that I have another card, actually a very similar card. Is it the similar card? I took the wrong piece. In fact, they even warned me over here. They gave a little exclamation mark saying, please don't take the wrong piece over here, because that's a similar piece, but it's a little different. This is the correct piece, I think. But I'm not even sure because technically the orientations are dropped different on this one. It doesn't perfectly line up. So now I'm no longer sure which piece is or isn't right. Is there another piece over here? Here we go. Here we go. This piece. There we go. They warned me. They warned me. Anyways, this is the piece we're going to be placing down over here. So I'm going to do that. And I do so knowing that I have this piece coming up. Okay, so I know my own personal card. I know that piece is coming up. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and put this down like so. Okay, so I'm going to make those little halfly things over there match. And we're trying to figure out how we can make as large a section as possible while completely filling the board. It'll all make sense as we go through it. In fact, you know what? Actually, let me just think through this over here. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and slide this down over here because I think that might be better for us long run. We'll find out. Anyways, I put that piece over there. That's my first piece. Done. Next person reveals their card. And keep in mind, everyone is doing this at the same time. Everyone is putting the exact same piece down. Think of this as Tangram Bingo over here. The next piece comes out. It's this one. The next player plays their card. We're going to go ahead and do that one. And we're all going to find that piece over there, which is this one over here. And again, you can put on either side. Now, before we do, I'll just note the 2 things you want, and I'll explain it more shortly. The 2 things you want are as large of a rectangle as possible every single round, and then balance between your green and your black squares. Okay, that's the 2 things you want. It'll all make more sense shortly. This one, I'm going to go ahead and put this one down over here. Now, I don't know if it'll play out in my favor or not. We're going to drop that over there. That's going to be my piece. I'll reveal my card, which again, remember, I knew this one, so I knew that was coming. I had a little bit of a pre-information or whatnot, and I'm going to drop this piece down here. So I'm completing this section over here. I'm putting that there, and then we're going to have the last card come out. Again, it's 4 cards every round, except for the last round. We haven't talked about it, but the last round is going to be exactly 3 cards all the time. Let's see if we can find this over here. We're going to grab this, and we're going to put it down to our city again. This time round, I might just orient it for the black over there, dropping that there, and this is not the best first turn rectangle, but the good news is at the end of every round, you have 1 of 6 fountain pieces that effectively acts as a wild piece so you can put anywhere in your city. Now, I know that I have this coming later, which can go nicely over here, so I think for right now, I'm going to try to focus on just filling this gap because I think that's an easy way to ensure that I have, well, a somewhat decent starting rectangle, and then we're going to go ahead and score. So, every player, and each player is going to do this on their own, but each player is going to score for their largest rectangle. In my case, that's 6, because I have a 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is going to be 6. I have another 2 times 3 over here. I have a 1 times 4 over here, but my largest rectangle is a 2 times 3. If I got a piece over here, I'd have a 3 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6 points. On blue, I'm going to go ahead and give myself 6 points. Let's pretend that the other players got, let's say, 8 and 4 respectively. And then additionally, I'll mark that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 green squares, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, black squares. So I have exact evenness in my city, although I don't have to worry about that. That won't score to the end of the game, but it gives me a sense of trying to keep my board balanced. You see, there's 3 ways you score in this game. The first way is at the end of every single round, there's going to be 6 rounds of play, you're going to score for your largest rectangle. So your largest rectangle, which goes as high as a 7x7 for 49 points, that would be a full board. The second way you score is at the end of the full game, you're going to score for your balance. So how much disparity do you have between your green and your black? And if you have 0 disparity, you get 20 points. If you have 1 to 2, you get 10, 3 to 4, you get 5, and 5 plus, you get 0 points. And lastly, you get a 15-point bonus if you completely fill your grid. So let's go ahead and play through one more round. It's quick enough after all. Let's go ahead and get it again. 1, 2, 3, and we have our face-up card that's going to be revealed to everyone offhand. We have that little piece over there. We're going to find this guy, that's this one over here, and we're going to put this one, you know what, we could go ahead and get a nice spot over here, although I'm a little wary of getting that 2 blocked off. What if I go over here like so? That could be a nice one. We're going to put this down over there, okay? That's going to be our first piece. Now again, technically I have the information of knowing that this is my card over here. Well, technically this is, yeah, let's go ahead and just say this is my card, and I'll go ahead and now play this card because the first player mark is going to rotate every round, so I'm playing first this time round, not second, and we're going to go ahead and place that piece out, so we're going to find that bad boy. This one can go nicely over here if I want, although I'm not confident. It could also go over here. The tricky part about there is that gives me a nice spot here, but it means this requires a very specific piece to fill out, which is not the hardest. You know what? I think I'll go for it. I'll regret it later. That's fine. I'm not even finishing this game. We're going to go over here with this one over here, and now we have that other piece we had. This one this time. That's going to be the next player. We're going to put this down, and this could go over here. The tricky part is then I have to fill it with exactly the 1 or 2 fountains, which is doable, but I don't like relying on that. I could put this down over here like so as well, which is going to make it so I only have to use a 2 over here, which gives me more flexibility for this, and I could put this down there. It's not the worst either. You know what? We're going to go ahead and do that. And then lastly, we're going to draw this piece, and we have that piece over there, which is this one. Now, this one I want to be mindful, because if I place this one well, I could get extra points for a large section over here. So if I go here like so, no, I can't do it like that. I'm lying. I can't do it like that. I could do it like this. There we go. If I go here like so, I'll be scoring for a 4 by 3, which is 12, or a 6 by 2, which is also 12. So I think I will go ahead and put that down like that. I have a lot more black than I do green, so I have to be mindful of that. But actually, let's go ahead and go to endgame scoring. I have 12 points for a 4 by 3 section of completed squares, or a 6 by 2. Either one of those is going to be 12 points. Doesn't really matter. On blue, so I'll jump to 18. I'm going to go ahead and mark that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of green, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of black. That's just a mindfulness so you can see the balance is completely out of proportion. And then you're going to go ahead and repeat that, doing that for the next, well, 6 rounds total. Technically I have a fountain. I could put my fountain out. Where do I want my fountain? You know what, actually, if I place my fountain down over here, that's going to make it a 5 by 3 instead of that, so I'm going to get 3 more points. So 1, 2, 3. We're going to do that. It does make it a bit harder to fill this. I'm going to need specific pieces like so, like to be able to do that. But I can deal with that. I know that it's coming. I can plan around those for later. But that is basically how you play through Tangram City. Across 6 rounds of play, you draw a bunch of cards, you bingo your little Tangram pieces into play, you try to be mindful of building the largest rectangle you can, you try to be mindful of balance between your green and your black, and do that, rinse and repeat until the game is over. That is Tangram City from Uwe Rosenberg. Which brings me to my review, starting off with ease of play. Rulebook is literally like 3 pages, maybe 4 pages, I think it's 2 pages, put them back to back, so 4 pages of reading, very straightforward. The game teaches in 5 minutes, plays in around half an hour, very easy game to set up, to table, to play, very accessible. It's bingo. It's bingo with Tangram pieces. That's basically what it is. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which is what I said exactly. It's quick to learn, it's quick to play, it's an easy, accessible filler game. The simultaneous play means you can play it up to 5 players, and it doesn't really slow down. So that 5-player game, heck, you have 2 copies of the game, you can play Tangram City at a table with 10 people and just have an overall good time. There's no cost to the additional players. You're playing your own little solo puzzle. There's no real difference or decision space outside of where you put your own pieces, so it doesn't really affect others. You can play this at whatever player count you want and have a good time overall. Although I'm realizing now if you're playing it at, higher player counts, then you might have to do some house ruling around who gets what cards, because that's the only thing that matters. But again, the function would still work either way. You just make those decisions and move on with that. So it has simultaneous play, it's quick and easy to table, and it's a little different than polyomino. So if you're getting a little fatigued on the polyomino genre, the fact that you have this slightly different mental puzzle of how these all correspond, and it is a slightly different mental puzzle. It takes time to realize, even this piece, I can't even tell you the first time I got this piece, the amount of times I was trying to make it go like this, and it would, well, that actually does work. If I was trying to make it the amount of times I was trying to make it go, how was I trying to do it? I was trying to do something wrong. Oh, I was trying to put it like this into a square. I'm like, oh, this doesn't work over here. Why does this not work? And the answer is because it's not a square, it's a diamond. That totally changes the way you interact with those pieces. So if you are someone who's used to polyominoes, that difference does matter, and it'll take a little time to get used to, which I appreciate. I like the fact that there's something different out there, because polyomino games, frankly, are a dime a dozen at this point, and some of them manage to stand out. others not so much. As far as what I don't like in the game, first of all, it is very repetitive. The game itself doesn't really do anything game to game differently. The entire game is fill your tangram board with tangram pieces, play your little bingo game of drawing cards and seeing which place to go, and then just fill your board. It doesn't change at all game to game. This is a pure optimization game. There's no player decision that gets in the way of what you're doing. There's no variable goals that changes it up. Nothing changes game to game. It is the exact same static puzzle, which means once you've gone through this a few times, I really think you've seen everything there's to see, and unless you specifically want that repetitive nature of your own little solo puzzle, I think this is a game that, for me at least, feels explored after a few plays. It's just not a ton going on in the puzzle because of the nature of it being very multiplayer solitaire, no real player interaction, and nothing to mix up the game to game outside of the order of how these cards come out. That's the only real puzzle you're dealing with here, and it doesn't change it enough to be satisfying enough over repeated plays. I'll also say that there is room for AP-prone turns, analysis paralysis-prone turns, where players take too long trying to think through what they're doing. I'd say especially towards that, 2/3 of the way through the game phase, you start finding players are starting to think through which pieces they have left and trying to think through how they're all going to fit into the grid to get that perfect balance between black and green, to get the perfectly filled board. You can start optimizing. You do it too early, it's kind of just, you can't perfectly plan it from the beginning, because yes, you can structure your board, but then you'll be giving up those points you earn every single round from your largest rectangle because you don't know the order things will come out. But once you hit that 2/3 of the way through the game, it's definitely in your best interest to start perfectly planning as much as possible, working your way around not just some degree of lack of knowledge of what comes out, but how to make it all work and stick in your board, which means it definitely is prone to those slightly longer turns where that one person's like, wait, I need a count. I have 23 black, I have 22 green. If I change this and if I push this here, then I can just go ahead and take that no points whatever, and I'll get 22 and 22, but then I can move this over here. You will have that happening in the game, so while it is for the most part quick moving, it can have those analysis paralysis prone turns in the game. As far as what I can see others not liking, I'll say kind of I touched upon already, but tangrams aren't as intuitive as polyominoes. They're just not. It is a different little puzzle to get. I mean, the whole reason tangram puzzles are appealing is because they're very confusing and complicated how it all fits together, and so if you're used to polyominoes, this is a drop different. And then as well as that, it's multiplayer solitaire, which for me in and of itself doesn't bother me per se. It bothers me because of the fact that the game doesn't have a lot of variability in it. But if you don't like multiplayer solitaire to begin with, this is bingo. It's bingo with tangrams. That's what the game is. As far as final thoughts on Tangram City, I think Tangram City gave me a very solid, enjoyable first play. But then from there, it kind of just was the same game every single time. For me, rating-wise, where I am right now with it is a 3 out of 5. I think my first play would have been a solid 3.5 out of 5. I had a little more fun with it. It was an enjoyable puzzle, but nothing really changes game to game. The game is very static. It's very straightforward. It's fun if you want to try a different kind of genre than polyominoes, and like if you're at a convention or a game cafe, I do recommend trying this. I've had fun with it. I just don't know if I recommend owning it. I think it becomes a little too static, a little too quickly, and there are much better games out there that don't suffer from that problem. So to me, it's a 3 out of 5. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, there's My Island. If you're looking for a different game with a slightly different take on polyominoes, My Island will give you hexagon shapes from Reina Knizia, and it's going to be giving you a legacy-style gameplay where across multiple plays, you'll be exploring the island, learning the ins and outs, and trying to optimally place your non-polyomino tiles. And then, technically, they might be polyominoes. I don't actually know the strict definition of a polyomino. Technically, a tangram might also be a polyomino. I'm not entirely certain. But then separately, if you just want a clean fill your board kind of puzzle, similar to the way Tangram City is presenting, it's all but just filling your board, don't worry about the details, well then I recommend Bärenpark. Bärenpark to me is still one of my favorite polyomino games, and it's very simple and straightforward as far as the goal of fill your board, fill everything, do that as optimally as possible in this very light, easy, accessible game. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.